everybody. It's Tuesday again, and time for a life coach moment. When I got into this, I had a sense that this was not going to be anything that was really all that normal. Because every time I talk to somebody, their situation is so radically different that it's hard to apply what I say to one person to the next person. It's like two completely different things, different scenarios, different people, different ways of thinking. Actually, what I thought, well, how hard can it be to life coach? You just get somebody on a phone and you just let them talk, and I could play video games, on my iPad while this is going on. How hard can it be? That was before I had my first life coaching session. Because when somebody starts to talk to you, they engage you in their life like you're watching a movie. It's the most fascinating thing. Because in these scenarios, people have a specific thing they want to get to. And they need somebody to help troubleshoot that and tell them, what's the next thing to do. In life coaching, what you don't want to do is just tell people what to do. You want to help them figure out what they need to do, because I believe that a person's going to get their best advice from inside here. They're going to be the best expert on their own life. So just to give somebody a set of rules, they're just going to walk away with those rules and go, but he doesn't know what's important to me. So I have to find out what's important to you, because life coaching, and I like to say it this way, psychiatry heals the past, advice corrects the present, life coaching creates the future. So we're about creating future here, and what's going to happen next. I had a lady come to me who has a passion for ministering to people who have been hurt in ministry. And this is not somebody that's actually doing anything right now, as far as it's not like they have a church, it's not like they're running a youth group, or they even have their own nonprofit organization, or they have a history in ministry and all the rest of that, but they have a passion to, I say it even goes more than a passion. It goes into a real strong God-given desire to help people who may have been through something that they've been through. And that's how things start. That's how ministries start. That's how good works start, by somebody who feels something to do for somebody else, or maybe they see a gap. I always like to say, you'll know what God's will is for your life by what makes you mad. Like you're watching TV and somebody's trying to fix something, they say, what really makes me mad? Why don't these guys just go out and just do this themselves? Why do they keep trying to get other people to do it? Why don't they just try to just do it? Whenever you hear that voice that says, it makes me mad to see this, why don't somebody just... Whatever that just thing is, that's God speaking to you. Because you see a void. You see a blank spot. You see an area that nobody else is seeing. And it makes you mad that spot's not being filled. God very well could be speaking to you about filling that void and saying, why doesn't somebody just do this? It's so simple. To you, it might really be simple because maybe you have an idea, a revelation on it, and nobody else does. So that's a good thing, actually. That happens a lot when you're watching TV. Why doesn't somebody just do this? A lot of performers or songwriters do the same thing. Why does everybody go to these chord patterns? Why don't they do something different? That's how you write new stuff. So when you hear that little voice, that's good. That means God's communicating with you, trying to tell you something for you to do that's going to be very rewarding for you. The lady that I was talking to, she felt very insignificant in the fact that she didn't know how to start something, and almost didn't want to share the vision with anybody because it's something she felt in her heart, but felt like, well, but what am I going to do about it? How do I get this thing going? Where do I start? You know, what was that old Chinese saying? The journey of 1,000,000 miles starts with the first step. You got to figure out the first step. So I asked her, I says, well, let's do this. Right now is a time where you're birthing something. You're birthing a vision for a ministry. Now, you don't know how it's going to turn out. You don't know where it's going, but you have to give birth to it first. So let's do this. Let's give the baby a name. What's the name of this ministry? Give me a name. I said, do you have one? She said, no. I said, well, baby gotta have a name. Before this baby grows up, before this baby even learns how to speak English, before this baby goes to school, learns how to walk, gotta have a name. You start off with a name. So let's name the baby. Let's name what you're giving birth to right now. Let's find a name. So what we did, we actually, we're on the phone and we went online and start looking at trying to find a name for the ministry. And I said, tell me some things you like. So anything that you like the way something sounds, because the ministry has to have a sound to it. It's got to resonate in you. It's got to come from you. Now, I'll be honest, I actually forgot what the name was, which is kind of good because then I'd be giving away someone's confidence, But remember, she said the name was in a particular language that she liked, one of the romantic languages. So let's say it was either Spanish or French or Italian. Okay, so she likes the sound of the way the words roll out in those languages. I says, okay, what does this ministry want to do? What do you want to do in this ministry? And her thing was to help, people who are burned out in ministry. I says, okay, all right. Well, let's take a phrase in English, and let's go online and see how that phrase sounds in French or Italian or Spanish. And let's just put it through one of those translators and see what we come up with. And sure enough, first time we put it in a translator and it came up, it was like magic. I mean, she just I could just feel her just come to life over the phone because that name gave it a direction. That name meant something. When you're starting a ministry, sometimes we always think about what it's going to do down the line and how hard it is to get down there. And that's not where you start. You start a church by having the church have a name. I used to go to a church that the name of the church was called In His Presence. It's a great name because that's what they wanted to portray in that church, what it's like to be in His presence. I'd never heard that name before, but that name gave the church an identity. There's another church that I went to called Higher Dimensions, because they're always trying to seek a higher dimension of God. And it made sense to them because that's how they ran their worship and the preaching. It was a cut above everything else that was happening in town at the time. So whatever the name is for the ministry, it's not important to find a name that you think everybody's going to like. It's more important to find a name that resonates inside of you, that means something to you, that every time you look at that name, you go, yes. So for those of you, and I said this to the lady, I says, you're coming up with a name for something, it's got to mean something to you. It's got to have significance. That every time you say what that name is, you can give an explanation of the definition of that name. And when we got that far, other things started to just fall in place. Well, what else can we do to get started? I said, well, let's you can just start off simple by getting a Facebook site. Just get a Facebook site and find a picture that is a picture that looks like the name of this ministry. Just scour the internet. Have a good time. Find a picture you want to put as the header. That when you look at that picture, it's like the visual of the name. And then go on there and just start talking to people. Before you go out and try to raise funds and try to think, how am I going to get a building and who's going to pastor this thing and who's going to run it, who's going to do the accounting, just take the next step, whatever the next step is. And maybe if you're on Facebook or wherever, just start putting something down, a post that is your vision, what you see and what you want to see happen or what you see is needed, and see what kind of responses you get. See who resonates with it. Because there's probably, if it's of God, there's going to be other people that feel the same way. And they're going to find you. The Lord, the Holy Spirit will lead them to you. But that's where it starts. So in this case, in this life coaching scenario, it started by naming the baby. Every ministry has to have a name. Everybody has to have a name. And that name will be a description and will be a challenge to live out for the rest of the life of that ministry. Where it's going to go, we'll figure that out in the next few sessions that I have with this person, because I think they're onto something. I really do. And I think it starts off with someone's vision. And then God sends the financiers and God sends all the other people to do all the other things that you don't know how to do. So, but if you know how to birth something, that's where it starts. I hope this helped.